their own case when they open by telling you that they love free trade, they just think it needs to be changed a little bit. Yet they give you countless areas of argumentation about why people in the developing and the developed world alike don't like free trade when they get presented with it and are likely to reject it. So if it truly was their stance that they think free trade is good, they've already lost that debate. But I'll engage with the rest of it as well under two themes. First, self-determination. Second, economic impact. So let's look at self-determination. Slide proposition tells you that they are principally justified in using this policy because this is such a big choice, this is such a unique choice, and people have the right to decide what is best for their lives. We got a much more nuanced stance from side opposition when we tell you that it is actually our principled role to ensure that the lives of people are made meaningfully better. That if the logical conclusion of having a principled right to self-determination is that you should be able to make good choices for yourself, the point at which you are making bad choices is the point at which that right is not serving your interests, and that ability to make that choice is making your life a whole lot worse. But purely pragmatically, what we told you down the bench is that they were never able to provide explicit analysis as to why these situations are unique. Healthcare policies influence the economic functioning of a country. Foreign policy influence everything that they spoke about. We think that there are countless policies that fall into their criteria. If they wanted to argue in favor of direct democracy, absolutely, they failed in that burden. But let's deal with the second argument about economic impact, because any principled case rests in the real world and whether or not people's lives are better. Their strongest material was that they said that in the developing world, people are really harmed by free trade, and as a result of that have the ability to say no and to stand up for their own individual interests. The problem, and we told you this down the bench, is that that isn't rooted in the real world. The situations in which India has been able to lift millions of people out of poverty in the last 4 years and reduce their poverty by 10% because of free trade is one in which we think that government made a good decision. But when Nigeria is far richer than before they had free trade, I think we win that as well. Because they tell you themselves that individuals are likely to be afraid of short-term job loss, that individuals are likely to be afraid of multinational corporations. We think that their stance is that the developing world would have significantly less free trade. And without that free trade, they have inefficient industry, they have expensive commodities, and the quality of life gets much, much worse. But what did we tell you down the bench? Because I think side proposition missed a lot of the nuance. I never told you that individuals were idiots. I told you that they were swayed by lobbyists that play to their fears. I told you that they self-select groups that have the same ideas as they are. I was shocked when Britain voted to leave because all of my liberal British friends on Facebook said they were voting Remain. I self-select into groups that have the same opinions as me, meaning that I don't get the kind of information that they want, which is the widespread, unbiased freedom of information. But they also ignored when we say people don't believe their votes are determinative. They don't believe that these people have any influences, and people are therefore disincentivized to research. But even if they didn't ignore all of that, we think that we proved to you that governments are better actors, because they're able to protect the foreign policy goals of the future. If you reject a free trade deal that you try to make with China, it is unlikely that in the future they'll come back to the table. They condemn generations of people to be in a world in which they can't have agreements with integral economic nations. But we also told you that governments are unique in that they can amend the problems with free trade. Their free trade agreements would get rejected because of those ISDS requirements. Ours have gotten amended to get those out of there so that individuals have much better lives without the pernicious aspects of those agreements. Because we stand for bettering the lives of people and for economic development, I am incredibly proud to oppose.
Okay.